Caitlin Clark fan at this point as a black person. This is what is being said to us. How you can't root for Caitlin Clark. I'm not making it up. There's people who are just blatantly telling us we can't enjoy a white basketball.
This isn't a casual observation. It's a clear line being drawn, a signal to an entire demographic about where they're supposedly allowed to stand. And it reflects how WNBA fandom has reached a troubling place where skin color is being used to police which players fans are permitted to support. Dismissing this as an overreaction misses the reality that this message is being aggressively amplified across social media by thousands of accounts in real time, shaping narratives and hardening divisions. The issue isn't whether this dynamic exists, it plainly does, but how the discourse around women's basketball devolved to this point, and what the long-term consequences could be for a league whose future depends on expanding, not narrowing, its audience.
Just listen to this.
Messages for my fellas. Look, read the room, please. Please read the room. When it comes to this situation with the WNBA, like, if you got something to say about her, I get it. But right now ain't the time to talk about how much you love her.
Why not? We're talking about the game. Y'all keep talking about everything else. Y'all keep talking about everything else but the games. We are talking about...
What's being demanded here is silence and self-censorship. Black men are being told to read the room, to suppress which players they enjoy watching, and to hide genuine appreciation for individual performances because a broader political or social grievance is supposedly more important. The logic being pushed is that because Angel Reese has faced years of criticism, publicly praising Caitlin Clark now is framed as a betrayal of black women in the league, but that framing collapses under scrutiny. LeBron James simply tweeted 3 words congratulating Clark after a strong performance, and the reaction wasn't mild disagreement, it was outright outrage, as if a black athlete acknowledging a white athlete's success during a contentious moment amounted to choosing the wrong side. Robert Griffin III faced similar backlash for recognizing Clark's talent. These aren't anonymous fans chasing engagement. They're high-profile black athletes being told that even neutral, positive commentary is unacceptable, revealing how rigid and exclusionary the current discourse around women's basketball has become.
This ain't the time for that. Watch the game and keep it moving. RG3.
So now we have to be fans in silence. Now we have to pretend like we have to watch the games and make sure nobody's looking. Don't nobody see me looking at these Caitlin Clark highlights, do they? Now we got to do that. We got to sneak and look at our phone and make sure ain't nobody around. Come on, man. Stop it, man. Stop it.
This ain't the time for you talking about ain't you hating her. This ain't the time. Even though I don't believe it to be true. And even if it is, this ain't the time.
We're now at a point where fans are being told they have to enjoy games in secret, as if watching Caitlin Clark highlights requires looking over your shoulder to make sure no one catches you, and the sheer absurdity of that should be obvious. This narrative has gained traction because it's wrapped in a broader argument about systemic inequities, specifically, the claim that white players receive preferential treatment in media coverage, endorsement deals, and fan attention. And to be clear, there is real data and history worth examining there. Clark's Nike deal was the largest ever for a WNBA rookie regardless of race, and her appearance on the cover of Time reignited long-standing questions about why black players with comparable or even superior on-court resumes haven't always received the same level of visibility. Those are legitimate conversations about media representation and marketing dynamics in women's basketball. Where the logic completely collapses, though, is in turning those structural critiques into moral commands aimed at individual fans, telling them they're not allowed to appreciate a great performance because of racial politics doesn't fix systemic problems. It breeds resentment and actively pushes people away from the sport.
Stuff about her, and you not sticking up for your sister, your niece, your cousin, your daughter. That's why a lot of women say I'd rather the bear than the man.
What does women saying the bear than the man? What is it? We're not talking about relationships. We are not talking about relationships or pilot. We're talking about basketball. And this is a perfect example of why a lot of men don't even watch women.
This is where the argument completely goes off the rails, because we're no longer talking about dating preferences or personal relationships. We're talking about watching basketball. Framing praise for white female athletes as a failure to protect black women collapses entirely separate issues into one moral demand, and it signals a shift away from basketball analysis toward loyalty tests. The framework being pushed isn't about on-court performance, strategy, or skill. It's about publicly proving you're on the right side by supporting certain players while criticizing or staying silent about others, which turns fandom into political performance rather than genuine appreciation of the game. That shift is especially damaging for the WNBA, a league that has spent decades trying to broaden its audience, attract casual sports fans, and grow viewership and attendance. Because just as the 2024 season delivered unprecedented attention, driven in large part by Caitlin Clark's rise and the Iowa-LSU rivalry, a vocal segment is now signaling to potential fans that their interest is conditional and unwelcome unless it conforms to rigid racial expectations.
Nothing to do with women in sports. Don't want women there when they watch it. This is why a lot of men don't even want to deal with women in sport, because what we do, we watch a game and talk like we in the barber shop. He's whack. No, I like him. It don't matter your skin color. It don't matter. If you ask, I would say if you ask 90% of black men that are being honest, who are NBA fans, who's the best player in the NBA? Some people, we all, we have the Mike LeBron debate, but LeBron's older now, so we don't really think he's the best currently. We have no problem saying, hey, I think Jokic is the best player in the league. He's from Serbia. He's white. We don't care. We don't care. We love Luka. We love Luka. We all bombed on the Dallas Mavericks for getting rid of Luka.
This is why understanding how men actually engage with sports matters so much. Because in men's basketball, talent recognition has never been gated by race or nationality. Nikola Jokic, a white European from Serbia, is widely viewed as the best player in the NBA right now, a three-time MVP, and black NBA fans celebrate his game without hesitation because he's exceptional at basketball, full stop. Luka Doncic followed the same arc. There was early skepticism when Dallas drafted him, but once people saw his skill, vision, and competitiveness, the doubts disappeared, and now he's one of the league's most popular stars with international jersey sales and highlights dominating social media. No one questions whether it's appropriate for black fans to enjoy his step-back threes or elite court awareness. The same dynamic is already playing out with Cooper Flagg, projected to go number 1 in the 2025 NBA draft and potentially become the first American-born white player selected first overall since 1977, nearly 50 years ago. The response from black basketball fans hasn't been suspicion or resentment, but excitement, because he's talented, plays with intensity, competes hard, and talks trash. Nobody is arguing that Dylan Harper should go first because he's black. The conversation is purely about who's the better basketball player, which is exactly how sports fandom has always worked when it's healthy.
None of us are mad that he's white and gonna be a number one. Like, it's just crazy. This is why a lot of men don't even deal with women in sports. I'm just being honest with you.
One that looks like you, because it's bigger than basketball. This situation is bigger than basketball and has been for almost 3 years now. Angel Reese deserves better. She does. So yeah, fellas, please.
So now we are at a point where we are being told as black men who we can and cannot like.
This cuts to the core problem with injecting racial politics into sports fandom, because it strips away the very thing that makes sports compelling in the first place, the meritocracy of performance. When someone hits a game winner, throws an impossible pass, or makes a defensive play that flips momentum, no one is running a demographic analysis in their head. they're reacting to excellence. Caitlin Clark pulling up from 38 feet off the dribble and consistently knocking down heavily contested threes isn't a common skill in women's or men's basketball. It's rare, it's exceptional, and fans are responding to that exceptionalism the same way they always have when a player does things others simply can't. The problem arises when appreciating that skill in public is framed as morally suspect because of broader systemic issues in media coverage. Systemic problems, however, require systemic solutions. Telling individual fans to self-censor their enthusiasm doesn't change how ESPN allocates airtime, how endorsement money is distributed, or who ends up on magazine covers. It just turns fandom into something miserable and divisive instead of joyful and unifying.
We are being told who we can and can't enjoy watching play a game. You can't like Josh Allen as a quarterback. He's white. We can't like him. We can't. Now we are being told who we can and cannot like. It's sad, man. This is sad. Y'all got to get a grip. This is sad. Y'all keep saying, oh, it's bigger at hand. Y'all are making it bigger than that hand. We talking about the sports in the game. And we gonna keep talking about the sport in the game. Y'all choose to continue to make this something else. I'm not gonna.
Let's address the Angel Reese situation directly, because it's repeatedly being used to justify this kind of gatekeeping. Yes, Reese has faced intense criticism and scrutiny, and the "you can't see me" gesture toward Caitlin Clark during the 2023 NCAA championship became a national flashpoint that led to racist abuse on social media, behavior that is completely unacceptable and should be called out and removed wherever it appears. But what's being dangerously conflated is the idea that condemning racist attacks against Angel Reese somehow requires fans to stop praising Caitlin Clark, when those are two entirely separate issues. You can unequivocally oppose racism directed at black players while also acknowledging exceptional performances by white players. These positions are not in conflict. Framing support for Clark as a betrayal of Reese creates a false binary that treats fandom as a zero-sum game, where appreciating one player means diminishing another, and that's not how sports function, not how fans actually engage, and certainly not how you build a healthy, sustainable audience for women's basketball.
Like who I like, I'm gonna enjoy watching who I enjoy watching, regardless of their skin color. There's plenty of black players I love watching. I'm gonna continue to enjoy the game. I'm gonna let y'all continue to be a part of the circus and the foolishness. I'm not gonna let you trick me into not being able to like and watch who I want to watch. I'm not gonna do that. So the sooner we can get back to the game and stop trying to make it about everything. Like she went and dove all the way to relationships. This is why women say bear to, like, what do relationships? We not dating. What does relationships have to do with this? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Put down in the comments what you think. Like, comment, subscribe.
So where does this leave us? Because this clearly isn't about one clip or one opinion, but a deeper tension that's been building within WNBA fandom for years. On one side are fans genuinely concerned about racial equity in media coverage, marketing, and compensation, pointing to real disparities that deserve serious discussion and systemic solutions, especially in a league where black players make up the majority of rosters. On the other side are fans who simply want to watch basketball and enjoy great performances without being told their enthusiasm is politically suspect or subject to racial loyalty tests. The tragedy is that both groups ultimately want the same thing: a thriving WNBA with fair treatment for all players and a growing, sustainable fan base. But instead of working toward that shared goal, the conversation has devolved into gatekeeping and purity tests that actively repel potential fans. After decades of fighting for legitimacy, coverage, better pay, and full arenas, the 2024 season finally delivered unprecedented momentum, with record viewership and sold-out crowds driven in part by Caitlin Clark's arrival alongside the continued excellence of stars like Aya Wilson, Breanna Stewart, and Sabrina Ionescu. Yet if new fans are told their support is only welcome if it follows rigid racial rules, that growth will vanish as casual fans move on to spaces where enjoyment doesn't require navigating social landmines. The result is a shrinking audience that ultimately harms every player, regardless of race. What needs to happen instead is straightforward. Media outlets must offer more equitable coverage across the league. Brands must recognize talent beyond whoever generates the loudest buzz, and fans must be free to appreciate greatness wherever they see it without accusations of betrayal. Most of all, fandom needs to stop being treated as a political statement. When someone says they love watching Caitlin Clark, the response shouldn't be an interrogation, but